Julian had a pheromone disorder. I wanted a child. It was for these two starkly different reasons that we were forced into a contractual marriage. On our wedding night, I bound him to the bed and began his treatment. He seethed, calling me shameless through clenched teeth. I ignored him, my focus singular. When I was finally pregnant and his disorder was cured, I brought up the divorce. He was the one who refused. I was an ordinary omega who had always dreamed of having a child of my own, but the cost of sperm donation was prohibitive. After years of saving, I was still nowhere close. Just as I was contemplating the messy alternative of finding an alpha for a one-time insemination, the Vance family came calling. When Ethan Vance and his assistant, Mr. Henderson, laid out their proposal, my initial thought was that it had to be an elaborate scam. His younger brother, Caleb Vance, a top-tier alpha, somehow had a 98.5% pheromone compatibility with a plain omega like me. Not only that, but the family was proposing marriage. It was utterly unbelievable. Sensing my disbelief, Mr. Henderson slid a thick legal agreement across the polished mahogany table. Ethan Vance spoke, his voice a smooth baritone, noting that he was aware of my registered application with the Pheromone Matching Administration, which suggested I was open to the idea of marriage. He pointed out that his brother was currently my highest-rated match. I didn't nod, asking with hesitation if Caleb Vance was even willing to marry me. It seemed inconceivable that a top-tier alpha from such a powerful family would passively accept a matched marriage with a common omega. Weren't the wealthy obsessed with power couple mergers and dynastic alliances? Why would the Vance family suddenly adhere to something as elemental as pheromone compatibility? Ethan explained that, in truth, his brother suffered from a severe pheromone imbalance. He elaborated that only a highly compatible omega could help stabilize and cure his condition. So it was for treatment. Caleb had to marry me whether he liked it or not. Mr. Henderson nudged the agreement closer. Ethan's tone, though gentle, carried a subtle thread of coercion as he urged me to consider his proposition. Under their unwavering gazes, I finally took the document. Mr. Henderson quickly offered me a photograph of Caleb Vance. For a single, sharp moment, my heart stopped. A devastatingly handsome alpha and $2 million. To hesitate for even a second would be an act of profound disrespect to myself. I gave a crisp nod, signaling my acceptance. I was ready. In retrospect, my enthusiasm was premature. A vehement refusal erupted from Caleb, who expressed his complete opposition to the arrangement without granting me so much as a polite glance. The Vance family, it turned out, hadn't secured his cooperation yet. I sat awkwardly across from him, sipping a glass of cold-pressed juice in silence. Mr. Henderson, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow, patiently explained to Caleb that the arrangement was purely for his treatment. He stressed that a divorce would follow as soon as he was cured. Caleb shot a pointed look in my direction, his lip curling in a sneer. He wondered aloud who could guarantee that certain people, having clawed their way into the Vance family, would ever agree to leave. Mr. Henderson opened his mouth, then closed it, at a loss for words. I understood their concern. From their perspective, a common omega suddenly marrying into a wealthy dynasty would likely cling to that status for dear life. But for me, the marriage itself was irrelevant. I had regretted submitting the matching application almost immediately after doing so. All I wanted was a child. I had no need for anything else. That was why I had been trying to save money for single-parent insemination. The application, however, was irrevocable, so I had simply ignored it. I never imagined it would actually pair me with a high-compatibility alpha, let alone one who needed my specific pheromones for a medical condition. If not for the immense sum the Vances were offering, and the undeniable quality of Caleb's genes, I would never have agreed to marry. I sighed softly, my voice quiet as I assured him he had nothing to worry about. I told Mr. Vance that I had signed a contract and would file for divorce on the agreed-upon date. I added that if his condition was cured ahead of schedule, and if my pregnancy was confirmed, we could even dissolve the marriage sooner. With my words, combined with the pressure from a phone call from Ethan, Caleb reluctantly agreed. Mr. Henderson breathed a visible sigh of relief and announced it was time to go. He would drive us to City Hall. After the sterile ceremony, Caleb and I were chauffeured to our new home. Mr. Henderson helped move our luggage into the master suite. The moment he left, Caleb stormed into the room, swiftly relocating all of his belongings to the guest bedroom down the hall. After he finished, he spoke, his tone stiff and uncomfortable, informing me that agreeing to the marriage was just for show and that I shouldn't take it seriously. He declared that he didn't need my help with his condition. What was I supposed to do? He wanted separate rooms and refused treatment. The money was already in my account. I couldn't just break the contract. More importantly, I needed to get pregnant with my adorable baby. I returned to the master bedroom, my mind racing, plotting how to begin his treatment. An hour later, I snuck downstairs to grab a pizza I had ordered. When I returned, Caleb had sequestered himself in the study. I waited until late into the night for him to emerge. As he walked down the darkened hallway, I feigned disorientation and stumbled directly into his arms. Caleb let out a derisive scoff, asking if I really thought such a clumsy trick would be enough to seduce him. I didn't answer, instead lowering my head and rubbing my forehead. He told me to stop faking, that it couldn't have hurt that much. Suddenly, his expression shifted, his body tensing as if facing a grave threat. He demanded to know what that smell on me was. I glanced at my hands in confusion. The induction agent was still in my pocket, unsprayed. How could he smell it? Leaning against the wall for support, Caleb's forehead was beaded with sweat, his eyes hazy yet glaring at me with a fierce intensity. He growled, asking what the hell I had done to him. It was his own pheromone disorder causing the premature rut, not my doing. I discreetly tossed the induction agent aside and offered a small, sly smile, telling him I was helping with his treatment. I kicked open the bedroom door, half pushing, half carrying him until he tumbled onto the bed. While he was still dazed, I produced a pair of handcuffs, methodically securing his wrists to the headboard. Caleb's body went rigid, his face a mask of shock as he demanded to know what I was doing. I replied coolly, asking if he, as a grown man, really needed me to explain how the treatment worked. Uninterested in further conversation, I quickly stripped off his shirt. A wave of fresh, fruity fragrance emanated from his skin, so potent it was almost suffocating. He claimed he was unwilling, yet his pheromones were screaming otherwise. I took a deep breath. Lychee. So sweet. He ordered me not to smell him, his voice thick with humiliation. His chest heaved with ragged breaths as he cursed at me, calling me a shameless, perverted opportunist. He spat that no real Omega would ever act like this. I took another deep, steadying breath, fighting the instinctual tremor that the alpha's pheromones sent through my body. As I leaned closer, Caleb turned his head away, his face a canvas of revulsion, yet his throat bobbed uncontrollably. The scent of lychee intensified. I gently patted his cheek and advised him to save his energy, reminding him to conserve it for more important activities. He let out a cold laugh, his gaze dark and unfocused as it locked onto my neck. A strange sensation prickled at my skin. I frowned, pulling out the bite guard I had purchased along with the induction agent. Alphas in this state had little control over their biological imperative to mark an Omega. While Caleb was restrained and couldn't make any large movements, it was better to be safe. He stopped struggling when he saw it, sneering that I must be delusional if I thought he would bite just any Omega. He told me to forget it. He wouldn't have a reaction even if I were standing naked in front of him. Was that so? My hand trailed down over his taut abdomen, and with a light squeeze, his entire body tensed. He pressed his lips into a thin line, glaring at me. I smiled and released my grip, pointing out that his body was telling a different story, and I was still fully clothed, my scent blocker patch firmly in place. A deep crimson blush flooded Caleb's face. He retorted defensively that I knew he had a pheromone disorder and that this wasn't something he could control. He accused me of doing something to him before his words devolved into muffled protests. Unable to stand his noise any longer, I clamped a hand over his mouth. He was so loud. I told him to stop whining about a simple treatment and that we should just get this over with quickly. In the dim room, the air conditioning was set low, but I was slick with sweat, feeling as if I were drowning in his pheromones. At some point, Caleb's curses gradually gave way to ragged gasps. I glanced up curiously. His face was flushed, and he was staring down at me, dazed. When our eyes met, he flinched and quickly looked away, complaining that I needed to loosen the restraints because they were uncomfortable. I refused. Caleb shifted, and the metal cuffs chafed a raw, red line onto his wrist. I ignored it, my own hips aching so much I could barely support myself. I paused to rest. He taunted me, asking if I was tired already. I shot him a glare. It was his fault this was taking so long. I had thought it would be over in minutes. Caleb, caught in a state of limbo, tried to negotiate, suggesting he take over while I just laid there. That way, he reasoned, I wouldn't get tired. I rejected the idea without a second thought. If I let an alpha take control, we'd be at it until dawn. It was better to keep the upper hand. After it was over, I collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. I unlocked the handcuffs, indicating he was free to go. Caleb rubbed his wrists, his tone indignant as he reminded me this was his room and that I was the one who should leave. I opened my eyes and looked around, belatedly realizing this was the guest room he had spent half the evening setting up. But I was too tired to move. I magnanimously offered to let him borrow my room for the night. He was so incensed he threw his clothes at my head. I ignored him, pulling the discarded shirt into my arms and using it as a pillow. A moment later, with a final, muttered shameless, he left. For the next week, Caleb actively avoided me. I never saw him during the day, and he never came home at night. At this rate, it would take forever to complete my mission and leave. Just as I was starting to worry about the treatment and the baby, an opportunity presented itself. I was getting ready for bed when my phone rang. On the other end, Caleb's breathing was erratic, punctuated by the cacophony of loud music and voices. His voice was low and raspy as he asked if it was convenient for me to come pick him up. His pheromone disorder was acting up. I raised an eyebrow, my response a question of its own. I thought he said he didn't need my help with his treatment. He snapped back, telling me to cut the crap. He sounded like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, his voice rising in pitch as he informed me he'd sent the address and that I needed to hurry. This was my chance. I rushed to the location, a trendy nightclub downtown. Outside a private suite, a group of anxious-looking young men were pacing. They looked at me, bewildered, as one of them asked who I was. I hesitated for a fraction of a second before stating that Caleb had called me. I showed them my call log as proof. They exchanged shocked glances before hastily opening the door for me. As it swung open, the overwhelming scent of lychee hit me like a physical blow, nearly making my knees buckle. Caleb was huddled in a corner. As if sensing my presence, his eyes shot open and he looked up at me. His voice was hoarse and laced with a hint of petulance as he asked what took me so long. I ignored his complaint and bent down, extending a hand. I asked if he could walk. The moment I got close, his breathing became heavier, his eyes a battleground of internal conflict. He insisted he didn't need me. I made a show of retracting my hand, saying fine then. His body reacted faster than his mind. He lunged forward, grabbing my arm with a force that sent me tumbling into his lap. A searing heat, mingled with the potent pheromones, pressed in on me from all sides. The force of his grip was making it hard to breathe. I struggled slightly, gasping his name. He just held on tighter, murmuring for me not to go. Caleb, still clinging to me, managed to stand. He nuzzled his nose against the side of my neck, inhaling deeply. After a moment, he asked if I wasn't wearing a scent blocker. Of course I was. I checked. The patch was still firmly in place. Unconvinced, Caleb fumbled at my neck, muttering that the scent was suffocating. I told him to let go then. In response, the large human-shaped appendage holding me only tightened his embrace. He passed out in the car. By the time I managed to wrestle the walking lychee tree back to our house, I hadn't even closed the front door before I was slammed against the wall. He was frantic, asking why he couldn't smell it anymore. A hand desperately searched the back of my neck, trying to tear off the scent blocker. The oppressive weight of an out-of-control alpha pressed down on me. Before I could react, he kissed me. Time froze for a second. I broke away, turning my head in a panic. Caleb remained where he was, frozen in the act of kissing me, his expression one of pure dissatisfaction. He demanded to know why I was pulling away. Hadn't I said I was going to treat him? Why wouldn't I let him kiss me? I pushed him back slightly, my face a mask of composure as I informed him that kissing services were not included in the contract. His towering frame cast me completely in shadow. Meeting his furious gaze, my scalp tingled and I swallowed hard. Caleb gripped my chin, his tone self-righteous as he pointed out that I hadn't asked for his consent before handcuffing him to a bed for something far more intimate. Now that he wanted a simple kiss, what was the problem? As he spoke, the lychee scent descended like a torrential storm. Caleb's kiss was predatory and unquestionable, landing urgently on my lips. The scent blocker on my neck was gone, and he kneaded the gland beneath until it trembled. The scent of rose instantly filled the air, tangling with the lychee. As a cool draft hit my skin, my rational mind fought its way out of the overwhelming heat of desire. I managed to get my hands between us, pushing at his chest while protecting my pants. My voice trembled as I told him we couldn't do this today. Without a blocker or a bite guard, things would get out of control. I just wanted a baby, not to lose myself completely. Thwarted again, Caleb's brow furrowed in annoyance. He asked if it absolutely had to be that way. Without thinking about what that way meant, I nodded frantically. Caleb hoisted me over his shoulder and strode into the bedroom. I was still disoriented when he tossed me onto the bed. I wasn't making sense. I just said no treatment. The next thing I heard was the crisp, metallic click of handcuffs snapping shut. I turned my head to see that Caleb had cuffed his own wrist to the headboard. He held his chin high, but his gaze darted away, refusing to meet mine. His voice was muffled when he asked if this was acceptable. Seeing his all-or-nothing posture, I almost laughed. I suppressed the urge, reminding him of his earlier words, asking if he hadn't told me to give up hope. Caleb fell silent. Impatient, he hooked his leg around my waist, pulling me down on top of him. The opportunity was too good to pass up. The baby was the priority. I submitted, lowering myself onto his body. The air in the room grew humid and thick, the two intertwined pheromones so dense it felt like they could turn to liquid. This session was smoother than the first, but also far more chaotic without the bite guard. In the throes of passion, Caleb buried his face in my neck, his hot breath on my scent gland sending shivers down my spine. I gasped for him not to bite, tugging at his hair to pull him away. He regained a sliver of clarity, his eyes struggling for a moment before he sneered that he had no interest in marking me. I told him that was for the best. But later, when I tried to get up and leave as I had before, a hand shot out and pulled me back. Caleb had somehow freed himself from the cuff. As I met his insatiable gaze, my stomach dropped. The world spun, and suddenly I was the one pinned beneath him. He pressed his body against my back, turning my face to meet his in another kiss. The moment our pheromones mingled again, my breath shattered. An omega's strength was no match for an alpha's. There was no escape. A deep unease grew within me. I pleaded with him not to be reckless. He murmured against my skin that he wasn't. An appeasing kiss landed on my scent gland as he whispered that this was part of the treatment I had insisted on. A small amount of pheromones, he argued, would never be enough. Nearly 2 months passed. Caleb's attitude transformed from initial hostility to outright eagerness. He would rush me to the bedroom the moment he came home, and his pheromones had stabilized considerably with the frequent treatments. But my own body showed no signs of change. The baby was stubbornly absent, and I was beginning to wonder if something was wrong with Caleb. Medical reports showed we were both perfectly healthy. I resorted to searching for tips online. I was halfway through an article when he came home. He announced casually that there was a gala that weekend and that he wanted me to go with him. His eyes flickered towards me, then away. I refused. For a transactional, emotionless marriage like ours, what purpose would it serve for me to attend a party with him? I had no standing, and I hated those kinds of events. The air was silent for a few seconds before Caleb crossed the room to stand in front of me. He asked who else would accompany him, if not his Omega. I countered by asking if he wasn't the one who had insisted our relationship be kept secret. Caleb's mouth opened, but no words came out. After a moment, he rubbed his nose, looking uncomfortable, and mumbled that his pheromones were almost stable. He claimed he needed me by his side constantly during this critical period, otherwise all our progress would be lost. That did make sense. I grudgingly agreed. The ballroom was a glittering tableau of elegant gowns and clinking champagne flutes. Breaking from his usual aloofness, Caleb kept a possessive arm around my waist, as if declaring ownership. He led me first to his brother. Ethan smiled at me, remarking that just a few days ago Caleb had been adamant he didn't want me to come. He then asked me, with a conspiratorial wink, if his brother had been behaving himself. Caleb let out an indignant protest, the tips of his ears turning pink. I assured Ethan that Caleb wouldn't dare. I tried to subtly pull away, but Caleb's arm only tightened. Ethan watched our playful struggle and laughed, telling us not to flaunt our affection in front of him. The second we were out of Ethan's line of sight, Caleb released me. The sudden distance was clarifying. He had only insisted I come to put on a show for his brother. I rubbed my cheeks, which were sore from smiling, and said that next time he wanted me to act, he should let me know beforehand. Caleb, who was reaching for a dessert, froze. He asked what act I was talking about. I shook my head, letting the subject drop. Just then, a smirking alpha holding a champagne flute sauntered over. He asked Caleb why he wasn't making introductions. His gaze fell on me, his appraisal open and unabashed. Caleb's arm found its way back around my waist. He was about to speak, but I cut him off. I introduced myself as Julian, I paused, choosing my word carefully. A friend of Caleb's. As the word left my lips, I felt the body next to mine go rigid. A friend, the alpha echoed with a grin, holding out a glass of champagne to me. He introduced himself as Wyatt, someone who had basically grown up with Caleb. I didn't take the glass, glancing instinctively at the silent man beside me. Caleb's face was dark, his brow furrowed, which made me grateful I hadn't revealed our true relationship and caused a misunderstanding. Caleb whipped his head around to face me, his voice hard as he repeated the word. Friend? I gave a slow nod. Was that not allowed either? Should I have said we were business partners? Caleb shot a look at Wyatt, and the typically sweet scent of lychee became sharp and oppressive, making me feel deeply uncomfortable. Before I could figure out what was happening, Caleb was pulling me away. Once we were clear of Wyatt, he ignored me completely, which suited me just fine. I found a quiet corner and savored a small lychee rose panna cotta prepared by the Vance family's pastry chef. It was sweet without being cloying. Ethan's voice appeared beside me, asking why I was alone and where Caleb was. He handed me a glass of juice, his gaze fixed on his younger brother, who was sulking across the room. As if sensing our attention, Caleb looked over. His eyes found mine across the crowded room, held for a moment, then darted away, his expression sour. Ethan watched him for a while before an expression of dawning realization crossed his face. He murmured that Wyatt must be here. I asked why that mattered. Ethan explained that the two of them never got along. As I sipped my juice, he told me stories about Caleb's childhood, explaining that the more Caleb cared about something, or the more he wanted it, the more difficult and contrary he became. I made a non-committal noise. What Caleb cared about or what he wanted, I had no way of knowing. He never said. All I knew was that besides his issues with Wyatt, he probably didn't want to be my friend either. I needed to focus on curing his disorder and getting pregnant so we could get divorced. Ethan's voice was gentle as he told me that he was happy to see me and Caleb getting along better than he had expected. He, as the older brother, was very pleased. He promised that if Caleb ever did anything to upset me, I should tell him and he would deal with his brother. I thanked him sincerely. After finishing my dessert, I glanced over at the sulking alpha. The flicker of annoyance I'd felt at his behavior began to fade. Before the party ended, Ethan made good on his word and dragged Caleb off for a scolding. I looked up at the second-floor terrace where the two brothers stood side by side, one with a stern expression, the other with his head bowed. A few minutes later, Caleb came downstairs looking thoroughly dejected. He snatched an untouched glass of champagne from a table and downed it in one go. He walked past me, muttering that it was time to go home. In the car, the enclosed space filled with the faint, intermingled scents of pheromones and alcohol. Caleb leaned back with his eyes closed, his breathing slightly heavier. The ride was silent. The driver parked the car in the garage and left for the night. I thought Caleb was asleep and didn't want to wake him, instead taking the opportunity to study his face. I'd never had a chance to look at him this closely before. The photo Mr. Henderson had shown me was an original. Caleb was truly beautiful. His features so fine and perfectly sculpted it was hard to look away. I found myself imagining what our child might look like. A perfect little baby already waving at me in my mind, its voice soft and cooing. A raspy voice asked for a hug. The baby's voice seemed a bit too deep. No, wait. I looked down. A large, warm, fuzzy head was suddenly resting in my lap. The dream was over, but a very real, very large alpha was asking for a hug. His body temperature was high, and the heat radiating from him made me sweat. I tried to push him away, telling him we were home and he needed to get out of the car. Caleb looked up at me, his eyes bright but hazed over, glistening with moisture. His cheeks were flushed an unnatural red. His voice was low. He thought his pheromone disorder was acting up again. In the cramped space, the scent was inescapable. It wasn't strong enough to be a full-blown episode, but it was there. I pinned his wandering hands, telling him not to lie, that his pheromones were fine. I paused deliberately, my eyes drifting downwards, and added with a smile that being drunk probably wouldn't help his performance anyway. I told him to go to sleep. As I moved to open the car door, I heard rustling behind me, followed by an indignant huff. He asked who said so. With a sudden burst of strength, he pulled me back, and I fell into his arms. I protested that the alcohol would affect the quality. My words were cut off by his kiss. The sound of our lips and tongues meeting, wet and intimate, echoed in the confined space, fogging the windows. My hands scrabbled uselessly at the leather seats until a large hand found mine. His fingers forcing their way between mine, locking our hands together. I gradually relaxed, sinking into the sweet lychee fragrance. As my head spun, I heard someone whisper my name, asking if we could try. I didn't answer. He just continued his assault until I could only manage a muffled sound of assent. I had no idea this would only excite him more. Afterward, I put his words out of my mind. Things said in the heat of the moment under the influence of pheromones meant nothing. All I knew was that the baby I had longed for was finally on its way. For the past few days, the smell of anything rich had made me nauseous. It was only today that I sluggishly realized it might not be an upset stomach, but pregnancy. I rushed out to buy a test, and sure enough, 2 lines appeared. Worried about its accuracy, I went to a clinic for a blood test. The result was positive. The baby was real. Now, the most important thing was to get Caleb's condition fully cured. Then I could take my baby and start our happy life somewhere else. I tucked the lab report into my purse and went to the pheromone and glandular health department at the hospital. Caleb was there for a checkup today as well. When I arrived, a doctor was examining his scent gland. Mr. Henderson was waiting outside. He saw me and shared the results of the pheromone test. He told me, with a wide smile, that the young master's pheromones had stabilized. I stared at him, my eyes wide with disbelief. Caleb's disorder was cured. Mr. Henderson nodded, his face beaming. He explained that Caleb was still having his gland checked, but it was almost certain. If the pheromones were stable, the disorder was gone. The timing was almost too perfect. The day I confirmed my pregnancy was the day Caleb was confirmed cured. It was a double blessing. I waited excitedly outside the examination room. A few minutes later, Caleb emerged. He looked well, exuding an air of profound relief. When he saw me, he paused, asking why I was there. I told him I was in the neighborhood. My eyes fell to his neck. The skin around his scent gland was red from the examination. He looked at me searchingly, as if trying to read something on my face, and asked if I wasn't hoping his condition would be cured quickly. Of course I was. I was the one most eager for him to be cured. But Caleb didn't seem as happy as I expected. In fact, he looked even more displeased, accusing me of lying. I was baffled. Before Mr. Henderson could even retrieve the final report, Caleb was striding away. I was torn, not sure if I should follow. I sent a quick text to Mr. Henderson and hurried after him. The drive home was suffocatingly silent. I didn't understand. His illness was cured. Shouldn't he be happy? What was his problem? As I watched the scenery blur past the window, I remembered our first meeting. He had been so against the marriage, worried I would cling to the Vance family and refuse to divorce. Was that why he was unhappy now? Was he worried I would break my promise? The car stopped in the garage. Caleb pulled me out and we walked quickly towards the house. His posture was so morose that I decided to cheer him up. I cleared my throat and called his name. Now that his condition was cured, Caleb spun around, his eyes filled with a flicker of hope. He was definitely waiting for me to bring it up. I smiled lightly and said that we should prepare to file for divorce in the next couple of days, as per the agreement. A dull thud echoed as he slammed me against the front door. Caleb's face was dark. He repeated my name, his voice low and dangerous, and demanded I say that again. I blinked, confused. Divorce. I reminded him that he had been worried I would drag it out. Now that his pheromone disorder was gone, my part was done. According to the contract, it was time for us to part ways. Caleb let out a bitter laugh, his lychee scent turning thick and oppressive. He asked by what right I thought I could start and end this whenever I pleased. He seized my wrist, his voice rising with anger as he declared that he did not agree. I struggled, trying to pull my hand back, reminding him that this was supposed to be consensual. It was a contractual marriage for mutual benefit. Now that he was better, a clean break was the logical conclusion. I asked him not to tell me he was thinking of backing out. At that, Caleb fell completely silent. His lips were pressed into a tight line, his jaw clenched as if he were suppressing something powerful. I took the opportunity to wrench my hand free. Faced with his towering, silent form blocking the doorway, I was trapped. After a long moment, Caleb's voice was hoarse when he asked what if he was. I feigned ignorance. His eyes, filled with a wounded expression, locked onto mine. He reminded me of that night when he had asked to try, and that I had clearly agreed. He accused me of being the one who was going back on my word. There was no way I would have agreed to try with him. If I stayed any longer, they would find out about the baby. The contract never mentioned a child. I had gotten pregnant secretly. If the Vance family found out I had mixed my personal agenda with his treatment, they would surely try to take the baby. That was absolutely not an option. I softened my tone, pleading with him. Couldn't we just part amicably? The contract was very clear, I started, saying that once he was cured. He cut me off, his expression explosive. All I ever talked about was the contract. He demanded to know if I thought the contract would still be valid if he ripped it to shreds right now. I stammered that of course it would be. He laughed, a cold, sharp sound. His eyes bored into me as he asked if there wasn't another reason besides the contract that I was in such a hurry to divorce him. His gaze slowly traveled down my body. He asked casually if I was hiding something from him. A jolt went through me. I couldn't stay here. If I stayed, he would find out about the baby. I packed a bag with trembling hands and tiptoed out of the apartment. As I stepped out of the elevator, I ran right into Caleb's nemesis. Wyatt was tossing a car key in the air, a lazy smirk on his face. He asked where Mr. Julian was off to and offered me a ride. Before I could answer, a chilling voice came from behind me. Caleb asked if this was the reason I wanted a divorce, the reason I was so desperate to pack my bags and run in the middle of the night. For him, Wyatt, enjoying the drama, called out that yes, he had come specifically to pick Julian up. Caleb roared at him to shut up. He turned back to me, his hand clamping down on my arm with enough force to bruise. My suitcase clattered to the floor. Uncontrolled waves of lychee pheromones crashed down on me. Caleb's voice was a raw mix of fury and pain. He demanded an answer. I tried to pull away, my voice shaking as I insisted it wasn't what he thought, that I barely knew the man. Wyatt, ever the instigator, laughed and said that my words were breaking his heart. Caleb bellowed at him to get lost. In one swift motion, he swept me up into his arms. The elevator ascended in tense silence. Caleb's jaw was tight, a storm brewing around him. Inside the apartment, he kicked the door shut and locked it, then dropped me onto the sofa. His shadow fell over me. Barely know him? He bit out, asking if I thought he was an idiot. If we barely knew each other, why would he show up in the middle of the night to pick me up? I was miserable. How was I to know he'd be downstairs? I was just trying to escape while Caleb was gone. I just wanted to leave. We were getting divorced after all. Running into him was a complete accident. My eyes started to burn, and I rubbed them as a dull ache started in my lower abdomen. Leave? Caleb's gaze darkened. Why do you have to leave? Just because I won't agree to a divorce, you're that desperate to get away from me? He leaned in, trapping me on the small sofa. At the gala, you said we were friends. I asked if we could try, and you try to flee in the middle of the night. Julian, do you hate me that much? Hate him? Not at all. On the contrary, after all this time together, I had shamefully lost control of my own heart. If I wasn't so afraid of the Vance family taking my baby, I might have been willing to try. I looked up. He was staring at me, fuming, but with the distinct air of an abandoned child. I told him quietly that I didn't hate him, that we just had a contract. I was weakly trying to remind him. Caleb made a sharp sound of frustration and suddenly bent down, his mouth capturing mine. Oxygen was stolen, whimpers swallowed. He bit at my lips, his tongue aggressively parting my teeth. My hands pushed against his chest, but his body was feverishly hot. It was only when his hand began to roam lower, towards my waist, that I panicked and shoved him away with all my strength. Not now. My baby was too precious. Caleb didn't seem annoyed at the rejection. Instead, a small smile played on his lips. He slowly reached over to the coffee table and picked something up. He asked if this was the reason. I followed his gaze and my face went white. My hands flew to my stomach protectively. He knew. His expression shifted, from anger to stunned disbelief, and then to a hesitant, overwhelming joy. Caleb carefully reached out, his fingers gently touching the back of my hands which were still shielding my abdomen. His throat worked, and his voice was dry as he asked if this was why I was in such a rush to divorce him, to leave. I gave a slight, hesitant nod, my heart pounding in my chest. Caleb knew. Did his family know? And if they did, what would they do? Force me to terminate or force me to give them the child after birth? He asked in a low voice why I would run away just because I was pregnant. Was I afraid he would find out? Afraid he would try to take the baby? What else was I supposed to think? This baby was conceived in secret. I pushed his hand away from my stomach, my voice firm. This is my baby. Mine alone. The contract never said anything about a baby. So, he said, his voice quiet, you just assumed I would try to take him. I nodded numbly. After a moment of silence, Caleb took a deep breath and gently pulled me into his arms. The sweet scent of lychee enveloped me, bringing with it a sense of security I had never felt before. Judging by his reaction, he wasn't going to take the baby. Was he? Contract is just paper. People are real, Caleb sighed. How could you just decide, without even asking, that I would take our child? Julian, did it never occur to you that we don't have to get divorced? Could that be true? But would the Vance family allow it? He was a top-tier alpha, the heir to the Vance fortune. And me? A common omega who sold his pheromones for money. Once his disorder was fully cured, how could his family possibly approve of our marriage? They would certainly want him to marry a top-tier omega from a family of equal standing. The more I spoke, the colder my heart became. I tried to push him away, but he held me tighter, as if trying to merge our bodies into one. Status? Caleb frowned. When it comes to feelings, isn't everyone equal? My brother was a bit forceful in the beginning, I'll admit, but he was pressuring me, not you. What are you afraid of? My family doesn't have all those strict rules. As long as I'm happy, that's all that matters. He stroked the back of my head, his nose brushing against mine. Besides, if I tried to divorce you now, the first person to yell at me would be my brother. He adores you. Do you remember the gala? He pulled me aside that night and read me the riot act, telling me I had to treat you well. Of course I remembered. Ethan had scolded Caleb right in front of me, and Caleb had just stood there and taken it, sulking. I looked at the pregnancy report still on the table, my words catching in my throat. Caleb's tone became triumphant. Now you have even less chance of running away. We have a child together. If I mentioned divorce now, my brother would kill me. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My heart was hammering. This was not how I had imagined things would go. It all felt unreal. Seeing my disbelief, he took out his phone and started scrolling through his contacts, declaring he would call his brother right now. I panicked and grabbed his hand to stop him, telling him to let me think. What's there to think about? He murmured, burying his face in my neck. His voice was thick and pleading. Julian, I love you. Let's not get divorced. Okay. I didn't answer. He just kept repeating the question over and over until I was so worn down I finally gave in. Yes, we wouldn't get divorced. We could try. If it didn't work out down the line, we could always get divorced then. After I agreed, Caleb became a different person. When we first married, he was sullen and did everything he could to avoid me. Now, he was practically attached at my hip. Everywhere I went, he followed under the dual pretext that his pheromones required continuous stabilization and that the baby needed the comfort of an alpha scent. In reality, he was just incredibly clingy. A few months later, our baby was born. Little Leo perfectly inherited his alpha father's premium genes. His face was still small and unformed, but he was so beautiful it made me marvel every time I looked at him. Agreeing to the Vance family's contract marriage had been the best decision I ever made. No purchased genes could ever compare to Caleb's. However, Leo also inherited Caleb's foul temper. He cried when he was hungry, cried when he was tired, and cried when he couldn't sleep. His wails were robust and full-throated. Caleb, his face a mask of exhaustion, complained to me in a hushed tone. He was convinced that Leo was punishing him because I had tried to run away, and the baby thought he had broken my heart. With a look of weary resignation, Caleb continued to rock our son, somehow finding joy in the ordeal. Listening to him hum a tuneless, rambling lullaby, I couldn't help but hide a smile. I was glad I hadn't divorced him. I never could have handled this alone. And I was glad the Vance family chose me, and that I chose them back.